Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's session. And before we get started, what I'd like to say is I'm going to ask you various questions throughout the session. I want this to be interactive, and I want you engaged. We're going to use, if you would please, use the chat window to answer just the short, questions that I may ask throughout the presentation, to send in your answers, and that's going to be a rolling chat screen. If you have a question that you would like me to answer either during the presentation or at the end, please put that in the Q&A box. There's two different box windows there, and that way it will be preserved, so I will be able to see that question and address it, because I don't want it to get lost in the sea of chats, okay? So thank you for that. So in this session today, we're going to talk about I'll start off with the value of project management, because studies have shown that there is value in utilizing project management and implementing project management within your organization. And so we'll talk about what those benefits are. And then what we're going to talk about are where are the 5 organizational dysfunctions. Why is it that these studies show that there's value in project management, but not everybody is seeing it? And so we will talk about those 5 main dysfunctions. And then we're going to get into how do we overcome those areas, what are those hurdles that we have to clear, and what dysfunctions do we need to get over. And after we're talking about that, while I'm going to identify 5 dysfunctions, I'm going to talk about how to overcome 2 of them, just because of time constraints, right? As good PMs, we're always aware of our constraints, and today we have an hour, give or take a little. So I will talk about techniques to overcome 2 of those hurdles. But I have a handout, and you see the URL here. You can download that handout and get the information on how to overcome all 5 in the handout and an ebook that we've written on this topic. And then we're also, after I talk about how to overcome 2 of the hurdles, I'm going to talk about what are some recurring themes, because in order to overcome all 5 of the dysfunctions, there are some things you can do that will help with all 5 of them. So let's talk about those recurring themes and what we can do there as part of the summary as well. Okay? And that URL will pop up again, so don't panic if you didn't get it. So let's talk about the value of project management. With the value on our website, I've also written a white paper on the value of project management, and a number of studies have been done. One of them was sponsored by PMI. It was a 5-year study. It came out a few years ago, but the information is the same. And what they found, that and the Center for Business Practices and a couple other organizations, is that there is value to doing project management. And you can see here on the slide some of those. We have more repeatable processes, more consistent processes, better business innovation, a better alignment of strategic goals, and fewer misunderstandings. What I found interesting about the presentation that PMI made on the results that they found, or the people that PMI hired, on the results that they found, was that most of the time the benefits of project management were not quantified in terms of return on investment. And that's because organizations don't know what they spend on project management. It's typically overhead. It's something that your employees do in addition to their regular job. They're not full-time project managers, so it's not as easily quantified, straight out quantification. But where organizations did see benefit was in the softer side, not the raw dollars, but the better alignment of goals and fewer misunderstandings and fewer surprises and better managed risks and things like that. So there is definitely value in project management. And we talk a little bit about that in the ebook. We get into more details on all these topics if you do download that ebook. So 2 examples of the impact of project management is 38% of organizations reported increased customer satisfaction. That's great. If there's anything you can do to do that, seems like a no-brainer to do that. And those organizations that followed good PM processes reported a 75% increase in productivity, which is a ton, right? And employee satisfaction increase of 40%. One of the quotes that I saw in these studies was, they said, your organization can get half again as many projects completed for 2/3 of the cost and have happier, more productive employees. So we can get, again, twice as many projects completed for 2/3 of the cost and have happier, more productive employees. So that's, quite a benefit. So the question becomes, if project management is so valuable, or brings so much value, why aren't we seeing it? So let me ask you, you guys chat in and tell me, how many of you work for organizations that are not seeing the full value of project management? You think you could do better, you think there is more, or maybe you're not seeing any value at all whatsoever. So go ahead and chat and let me know, how many of you are working for organizations that are not seeing the value or the full value of project management? Yeah, it could do better for sure. That's good. Yeah. Definitely could do more organization-wide, higher education. Okay, good. You don't believe you're seeing the full value? Great. Could do better. Mine does. So I'm not sure if mine does. You see the full value? I think that's what you mean. Could see more value from your PMO. Okay, could do better. They see the value, just don't know how to get there. That's a really good comment. Yeah, we see the value. We just don't know how to get there. Yeah, depending on department and project type, good. Could do better, more value from the senior leadership team. Great, good. So thank you for that. So all good comments, and so we finally have a formal PMO but are struggling to get the true value. It is. Just setting up a PMO is not enough. It takes time to really get in there and change the culture enough to drive those benefits and that value. Some stakeholders feel it adds too much overhead. And, if not done right, that's absolutely true. And we have to overcome that perception because, part of it is making everyone aware of the value. So having, hopefully, in some way baselined your current processes before the PMO was in place or before you improved your processes, and then show them where you've gotten to, how much better it is now. So the as-is versus the future look. So the PMO is invisible to the organization. That's interesting. And yes, if it's invisible to the organization, then people will not see the value, will not see the involvement and the effort put in to do what you do. You might be providing value, but people don't recognize it as such. So let's talk about how to overcome some of these really common dysfunctions and try to demonstrate that we are adding value, to be much clearer, more clear about the value that we are adding. So let's talk about culture and where it gets in the way. So where does culture get in our way? Now, when I started creating this topic, I did so probably out of desperation, but I did so based on my experience in working in corporate America for 15 years, and I've owned my company now for 16 years, just saying, okay, based on what I've seen over the years from organizations, large and small, well-run and not well-run, private sector, public sector, government, just all sorts of organizations, what are the common areas of dysfunction, and what can we do to get around that? And at first I was just going to cover the top 3, and then I started making a list, and of course, it got too long, and I narrowed it down to 5. So here they are. So where does culture get in the way? Well, with firefighting and drama, I'm going to describe what that is, but we get into firefighting mode and the drama queens and drama kings, and we'll talk about that and how to overcome it. Turf protection, not sharing information and turf protection, that is very common as well. Miracle workers, when management or people or your customer expects you to just deliver miracles, that is a problem, right? I'm sure some of you have seen that. So we'll talk about that. Unrealistic expectations. With unrealistic expectations, customers or management don't want to be involved, but they just want the results. That's miracle workers. With unrealistic expectations, they give you, a budget or a schedule that, just can't be reached. It seems very reasonable to them. It's not. So let's talk about that. And then micromanagement. Those micromanagers,